Hello guys, I'm back. I was on a really long vacation. I went to boot camp. I came back. I went on vacation. I came back. I went to summer camp. I came back, and next week I'm about to go camping. Anyways, in today's video, we will be talking about my June reads. So if you're enjoying that, stick back and relax and enjoy this content. Roll my intro. And subscribe to this video. Of course, I'm gonna get that little icon that pops up and it says click, like ding ding. We're gonna be talking about what I read in June. If you're not familiar with how my videos go, we have 4 categories. We have my read, we have my DNF, my carrying over, and my predicted reads. My read is what I read, my DNF is what I didn't finish, my carrying over are books that I started reading but I did not finish, and my predicted is books that I think I'm gonna read this month. I feel like most what I read videos don't really focus on the books that they're currently reading. They only focus on the books that they are finished with. So without further ado, let's get into this video. The first book I read is The Great Gatsby. Oh my gosh, I finally finished it. I've been on this reread for so long, literally since I think January. I ended up rating this a 3.25 stars, even though this is one of my favorite classic literature. I'm going to look at some Penguin classics and see if it's any better than this, but I absolutely despise this specific book. I hate how close the words are. It's just so annoying, and it was really giving me a run for my money. I was having so much fatigue. It strained my eyes. I have glasses, and I even read with my glasses on at some point, and it just did not help. The next book I read was Goodnight Stranger. This is the book that has been on my TBR for I think 4 or 5 years now. It follows 2 twins who are orphans when a strange man comes along and has decided that he is actually their brother, and they don't know if he actually is their brother, and their brother actually died when they were both newborns. I ended up rating this book 3.5 stars. I think the premise was so good, but there was just something a little bit lackluster, and also everything clicked a little too well for my liking. It was too convenient of a plot. The plot was definitely highly revolving around them being in a small city, and a lot of the things that didn't make sense were explained away as them being on a small island. And I will say that this author did a very good job at making you feel like what the main character was feeling. I was anxious for the main character the entire time. Every time the main character was having a panic attack, I was also panicking with her. The next book I read was Hazelthorn. Hazelthorn follows Evander, who is locked in a house. He is supposedly a sickly child and is being taken care of by the Hazelthorn mansion owner, except the Hazelthorn mansion owner dies and his grandson is left in the house with them, but the grandson tried killing him, Evander, prior, so it's definitely tension all around, and they're trying to figure out why Hazelthorn owner's grandson is just alone in the house with him. I loved the plant vibes. I loved the etherealness of the book. I rated this 5 stars. At first I was going with the 4.5, but then I was just comparing it to some of my other books, and I really felt like this book could not compare to so many of the other books that I was reading, and I ended up giving it a 5 star. It is very gory, and I was just as confused as the main character was, but not in a bad way, but I was confused at the things that were happening just like the main character was. I read Don't Let the Forest In, and I thought it was such a good book, and I didn't think this one could top it, but it did, and I am so glad. And also, look how beautiful this cover is. The foliage on here is so gorgeous. The next 2 books I don't have physical copies for, but it was Thanks for Watching is basically a whole bunch of social media content creators are invited on a retreat to promote a energy drink, but people keep dying and it's really confusing, and it's basically a murder mystery. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I just did not connect to any of the characters. It was very unique and original, but I didn't like any of the characters. I do think a lot of the characters ended up feeling repetitive and very flat, and I think that if the author would have took some time to fine tune, I think she would have had a much better time making her book a lot more enjoyable. And also, a lot of the beef and anger and issues that each character had with each other was just so surface level, and I know that's the point of the book, but it was just annoying to read. I didn't really care about it. I didn't connect with it. The premise was nice, but execution was poor. The next book I read was Half This Age by Jeanette McCurdy. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was a very graphic, very disgusting book. The educational awareness that this book provided, I do think it was a very dramatic book, and I think that's exactly what we needed, because you literally sit there and you're like, how could this ever happen? But it happens to people all the time. Half His Age follows Waldo, who is immensely in love with her teacher, Mr. Corgi, and her teacher is in love with her, and so they embark on their experiences together and fall in love and do all the things that they do, and it explores the relationship between a student and a teacher and what is crossing boundaries, what is not crossing boundaries. Is it okay to be in a relationship with somebody who's your student because they're 18? Is it okay to continue that relationship because they graduated? Is that okay? Or is that just a little bit creepy when you have a wife and kid at home? The last book I read for June was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. If you're not familiar with Sherry Frankie, she was a star on the 8 Passengers channel run by Ruby Frankie, a very abusive and very disgusting woman. Ruby Frankie profited off of her children's experiences in life, children's depression, sadness, fame, and fortune. She stole so much of their childhood from them, and Sherry Frankie writes a book about how her mother did this and growing up in 8th Passenger. And also, I've already mentioned I don't like rating people's lives. I feel like I had an easier time rating Viola Davis's because I didn't grow up with Viola Davis's childhood being broadcasted to me. I watched 8 Passengers get famous, and I was, I think, almost a teenager when all the stuff that was happening to 8 Passengers and what was happening to the children and the abuse that got revealed. So I have a little bit more of a closer relationship to this story, so I just feel weird rating it so far. I want to be as respectful as possible to the people who write memoirs and the people who are experiencing their lives, because I'm not trying to rate these memoirs based off of, oh, this was so entertaining. And now moving on to our DNF category. I only DNF'd one book, and it was Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. The reason I did this is because it was the way that it was written was not how I expected it to be written. I should have read a preview beforehand, but I didn't, which is my fault. It was very much encyclopedia-esque, which I was expecting it to do that, but people were explaining it to me it was just going to be like a regular romance like BK Borison, and it definitely was not. I just think I would have a better time reading it as a physical copy, but it's super highly praised, so I think I'm going to enjoy it. I don't know, I say that, but I'm not really one to also go with the grain. I know Aesthetica people really loved, and I actually did not like it. I Who Have Never Known a Man I thought was pretty good, but people were praising it so high, and I was just like, this is just an okay book. Twisted Love I absolutely despised, and so many people loved the book, so I say that, but I'm also not very sure how I line up against majority vote. Now, of course, there's some books that I did not finish reading, and I carried those over into July, and those books are Turtles All the Way Down. You guys saw it in my last video. I finally have the physical copy. I don't like reading John Green books other than physical books because it's a tradition at this point, and I feel more natural when I read it like that. Another book that I decided to carry over was Like We Were in Paris. I didn't finish it because I just read other books. I'm not really into a romance, but it's a queer romance. I feel like they're a little bit more nuanced. There's a lot more emotional soul searching in those books. And last but certainly not least, and I think one of my biggest categories for this month, we have my predicted. Starting off, we have Hawthorne Legacy. I promise you guys I'm going to read it eventually. And then we have Dig, which is about a whole bunch of kids finding out that they're not in their grandparents' legacy. I thought these were veins at first, but then I realized these are potatoes. So I'm not as into it as I thought. The next book we have is Dumplin'. If you have not seen the movie So Good, I didn't even know it had a book, and I think I'm going to love the book even more. It basically follows a girl who is just unattractive to the main public eye. Her mom was a beauty pageant winner, and her mom doesn't think that she can win the beauty pageant. Will Grayson follows 2 guys who are both named Will Grayson, and they form an unlikely friendship. It's another John Green book. If I read this, that'll be done on my John Green challenge, and I'll only have, I think, 2 or 3 more books to read. Diary of Anne Frank. You guys know it, and I'm reading a translated version, I believe. This is another one of those books where I really want to be respectful of the author and respectful of the things that have gone into publishing this book and the reason why we had to publish this diary. We have Meditations. It is a journal entries from Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, and he actually is dropping wisdom, and I'm like, what the heck, man? That's actually, you're kind of right. And last but certainly not least, we're reading Maud, which is basically the story of a girl growing up in the 1900s as a housewife. It is the end of quarter 2. I wanted to do statistics. My most read genre is horror, 3 mystery and thriller, 4 romance, 5 lit fic, 1 classic, 2 memoirs, 1 self-help, and 6 horror books. In January, I read 5 books, February 4, March 1, April 5, May 2, June 6. I have currently read 23 out of my 35 book reading goal. At this rate, I will be done with 46 books if I keep up my current pace. According to Fable, I will be on track to meet my 2026 goal in October. My most read author is B.K. Borison, and my average rating is a 4. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I do want to know if you guys think I should go towards a more purple aesthetic because that is my favorite color. The next video to be coming out is the compilation video, so we will see you guys next video.